All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of Wednesday Wisdom Live. This is the show where I bring on guests to share their wisdom about running, growing, and scaling a business. Because unless you've discovered the secret of everlasting life, you're not going to live long enough to learn everything there is firsthand. I am Ali Taylor. I am the founder and consultant at Wisdom and Wayfinder, where I offer done with you consulting to help small businesses grow, profit, and scale with the right systems, strategies, and relationships. And today I have with me Phil the Connector. Phil is a networking master who has done over 6,000 one-on-one meetings in the last 6 years. I don't know where he finds the time, but he is a pro at finding and making meaningful introductions happen on a huge scale. And what makes Phil really special is that he has a heart for helping other people build their networks as well. And that is why he's created the Connector community, and he's going to be sharing about his gift for networking and making meaningful introductions happen. And it's more not just about making new contacts, but about really building those relationships. So, Phil, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is very exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. Speaking of connecting, let's just share quickly, how did you and I connect?
Great question. I join networking groups. It doesn't matter where they're at. And, since COVID, post COVID, our world is completely opened up to us. So that is one of the benefits of that situation. I'm now in a group in New York online. I'm in a group in LA online. And we met through an organization called The Tip. And I believe, oh yeah, we were on a lunch bunch thing together. But whenever I see somebody that's awesome and I want to meet with them, I reach out and do a one-to-one, because you never know where that one-to-one's going to go.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. I remember you immediately booked time on my calendar, and I was like, I hadn't even registered where you were on the screen yet. But then when I heard your presentation when you were talking about it, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. Let's see what happens in that conversation. And it was a great conversation, that initial one on one that we had.
Awesome. Yeah. And I appreciate that. I've been, now that doing 6,000 one-to-ones, I've really honed in on let everyone talk first. That's the number one. That's your number one tip. When you do your one-to-ones, let them talk first. Even if they take the entire meeting, that's
Hmm.
okay, because they're going to let you speak. Right. And even if you have to book a next one-to-one, now they're really tuned into what you say or offer or what have you. Um,
Yeah.
and then my goal is always to connect you with two or three people, and I've been doing that for years. And that's why we created the Connector community, because people are always asking me, "What are you doing now, Phil?" I find the coolest things because I do all these one-to-ones, and
Hmm.
then I'm like, "Well, I got to push this, and I got to push this, and I got to tell people about this." But now, when I create the community, then I can help just connect people, right? Now they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I build a community where you all can connect together," right? So basically, I'm opening
Hmm.
up my Rolodex, and people are joining that. So yeah, it's very exciting, and we have so many more ideas of what we want to do with it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear a little bit more about what those ideas are. And just for those younger viewers that are listening, a Rolodex is basically where you used to keep your contacts. So we just want to make sure this is friendly for
Your
all
phone,
generations.
your phone, your
Yeah,
phone.
your friends or your Instagram followers, or whatever your Snapchat followers, or whatever the next
Oh.
social media platform is. But yeah. So Phil, tell me, like, how do you? First of all, how much time does it take for you to meet with that many people over the last 6 years? Because so many business owners, they're busy, they're overwhelmed, they have so many different priorities. They know that networking is important, and yet they sometimes don't prioritize it because they just don't have enough time or energy. So, how do you go about figuring out where you're going to invest your time, and then how do you give yourself the energy to be able to do that?
Yeah, so I think I got lucky, and I didn't really ever think about someone else. I guess there's two business types out there, right? So one
Mhm.
is you're a salesperson, and I've been in sales for 39 years. And so when I learned about networking, I'll kind of start there. When I learned about networking in
Mhm.
2018, I was like, "What? Everyone will listen to what you have to say? This is ridiculous." And so that's the hardest thing for a salesperson to kind of get in the door, if you will. So I went nuts with it, and I would carry different products along the way. But my calendar will look different than other people's because I'll do, like, when I first started out, I would be sitting at a coffee shop, and every hour on the hour a new person would come in because I had it
Mm,
set up that way, right? So, but I would network, probably do 6 to 7 a day. And
wow.
so, right, and so, but and so I guess when I realized that other people can't do that because they actually are a plumber, or they're a coach, and they have to actually go build the content, or they have to have a meeting with their actual client. So
Hmm.
I've been um I guess it's you that my uniqueness is I've always picked products where I don't have to do the work. And so that's
Gotcha.
probably the best way to put it. So, like, I sold websites for a while, but I didn't build the website. I just sold it and then handed off to the team that built it. And then I did merchant
Yeah.
services, and I handed off to the processor. And then I did whatever, and I handed off to whoever. So I became very, very good at the handoff. And so that made perfect sense that I could network all the time. So I'll always do more network. I'm more professional networker than anyone else. But what should
Hmm.
people do? They should make time to network, whether that's before your time, whatever. But that they say, if you're in sales, 50% of your calendar should be sales related activities.
Yeah.
um, you need to treat your business just like a business, meaning don't do any of your personal errands or anything like that in business hours. 9 to 5 is work time. And I made those mistakes way early on where I'd be like, I don't really want to go cold call, because I come from a cold calling world, door to door cold calling, telemarketing, that
Yeah.
type of stuff. And sometimes you get afraid of that stuff. And so I just would go do other personal things, and then I didn't have the activity, right? So, yeah, I guess a long story short is that I've always picked products, not knowing, but I've always kind of picked products that I didn't have to do the work, so that allowed me to network all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the lesson that a lot of business owners can take from that, especially if they are the one who is the practitioner, the implementer, is, either figure out how you can structure and organize your business in a way that you can hand off certain tasks. I know I'm talking to my clients a lot about, like, what are those $10 an hour tasks that you can hand off to someone else so that you can give yourself more space, more bandwidth to work on the business, to do that business development stuff. And I love that statistic that you said about, 50% of your time should be spent on sales. I heard a great quote that said, if you're in business, then you are in the business of sales. It doesn't matter
That's
what you're
right.
doing, what your business is, what your product, your service is. You are in the business of sales. So you need to, get really good at sales, or at least love the process of sales.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. That's actually from Robert Kiyosaki, and he would argue that
Nice.
point. Rich Dad Poor Dad. He would argue that point with people. They wanted to say that they're an author, or they're this or that, and he
Yeah.
goes, "You are a salesperson, regardless of what you
Yeah.
think. You are
Yeah.
a salesperson. And if you don't think that and you don't adopt that, then you won't be in business."
Yeah, it's such a, and I think, so many people have such an aversion to the idea of doing sales because they associate it with, the used car salesman stereotype from back in the 80s and 90s, or, the scammers, or the people, the bully in high school who suddenly reconnects with you because they want to bring you into their downline, right? They kind of
Exactly, right.
associate sales with those with those tactics.
Totally.
Yeah. But it
Well,
sounds like for you, sales is really about the opportunity to kind of build a business that worked for you and what you preferred, rather than trying to mold yourself the other way around.
correct. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't understand at the time, but now looking back, I see that I aligned myself with products that I didn't have to do the work. And I always kind of
Yeah.
thought myself as being lazy, but really I was like, no, I'm actually, just, there's people out there that want to do the work, and there's people that
Hmm.
they don't have the leads. When people want the leads, they want those connections, if you will. And I'm feeling like the new currency out there is your network, right?
Yeah.
Lots and lots of people now are even doing things for free for me because of my network, right? And so it's like, how many people do I need to introduce you to get to whatever? So and so I kind of proved the point the other night. It was last Monday, we were just sitting on the
Hmm.
couch. I was like, what should I name my Facebook group? Because I want to have a Facebook. I have a private one for the connector community, but I wanted to create a Facebook group that like brings in opportunities for our connector community. So we just named it "Your Network is Your Net Worth," right?
Yeah,
And within
I'm a
48 hours,
member.
400 members. So all those people resonate with the idea that yes, my network is my net worth. But what people don't spend time on is building that. And that's why the connector
Yeah.
community is so powerful, because we're going to build it for you. And so when people are like, "What? You'll do what?" And I don't require you to come to a meeting or anything like
Hmm.
that. So the best way to probably explain what the connector community is, we kind of alluded to it, but is a LinkedIn, but on like an invite only LinkedIn. But we're also going to make connections for you through some automation programs that we have. But we're going to also have business connectors like myself reaching out on every quarter and seeing what you need in your business. So the theme
Oh, okay.
behind the theme behind the connector community is get your life back. So there'll be an opportunity to introduce you, for example, if they're ready to scale their business, right? Because you're talking about
Hmm.
scalability, right? So when is that opportunity to bring that person in? So we listen through conversation of when's the time to make that connection, and then it makes, of course, us more valuable, but also that theme is let's get you out of that cage that you created for yourself, right? I'm sure you talk about the
Yeah.
cage. Or the job
Yeah,
you created for
I have
yourself.
different names for it, like the trap, the hamster wheel. That's 57 different hats that you're wearing. Yeah. Yeah, well, what I love about your approach with the connector community is, yeah, it's that LinkedIn aspect of it, but it's almost like a matchmaking service in a sense of like we're going to do the work to find you the right power partner, the right person that can integrate with what you're doing, and take some of that heavy lifting off of your plate.
Right. Yeah, great, great. I love that you said it that way, because that's exactly right. My wife said, because I always like to ask her, because she's not a business person. And so I said, how do you perceive this? And she said that
Mhm.
matchmaker. So
Yeah.
we're matchmakers. And if you only log into our platform when you have a connection to make, because our algorithm has told you that, then that makes it saves you time. You're not searching through the list like you would on a
Hmm.
LinkedIn or an Alignable. We're telling you, hey, it's time to connect with this person because you told us
Yeah.
you wanted to meet everybody in home services because you have a product that works for home services or whatever. So when they join, you go, oh, I want to be in there, right? And
Yeah.
so that, and then of course the business connector thing. We had that idea last weekend because we go camping just to free up our brain and not have any cell phone service so we can think, right? And
Nice.
the business connector came along because I said, you know what? People sign up for stuff all the time and then they don't use it, right? How many people out there has Netflix, LinkedIn, or
Yeah.
sorry, not LinkedIn, but Hulu and all these channels? You need to go through that list, right? Because you're not even watching those and delete them. but they're
Yeah. Well, for everything, it
it's
seems like you
valuable.
have to create a profile now for it. So yeah.
Everything's a creative profile, and we do that for you
Yeah.
now because we realize all
Yeah.
these things you won't do, we're gonna make sure it happens. So we're gonna force you to be connected with somebody. We're gonna
Yeah.
do your profile for you. All those things that I've kind of learned over time that people are just not gonna do, but it'll create a stronger community. So
Yeah, I love that you're baking in the sort of done for you aspect, but also the accountability of like, hey, it's time to meet someone. Like you said this is what you wanted. We have
yeah.
someone, now here's the opportunity. And you can go forth and do with that what you will. So
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
speaking of that, what are some of the mistakes that you see or
Oh,
that you have seen in your experience that people make after they finally connect with someone?
yeah. So first off, okay, number one thing. When you do a one-to-one with somebody, it is not a sales pitch. People
Mm,
make that mistake all the time. So do not
yeah.
schedule a time on someone's calendar. Be respectful of their time. If you schedule a time on their calendar and they've deemed it as a one to one, you're there because you requested the one to one. You're there to get to know their business. So that's why you
Yeah.
always let them talk first, and learn about them. Then, if there's time, you share what you do. Now, normally there is time. There's usually it's people can talk for about 15, 20 minutes. and then the natural progression is to move to the next person. So these
Hmm.
online one-to-ones take about a half an hour, sometimes an hour. In-person ones usually take about an hour. But again, it's not a sales pitch. So if you can do
Yeah.
that, because you're building your brand, and if you start using those one-to-ones like I did in the beginning as a sales opportunity, then you'll lose people's respect, and they will not want to do one-to-ones with you, and it spreads fast in a community.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're
So,
just like, oh, this person just wants to pitch me for their services, versus actually getting to know me and to see if we're even a good fit, if we're a good match.
mhm. Now,
Yeah.
and I also wanted to say that the people that you meet with they're not your prospects at all. Now, will you do business
Mm.
with them? Yes, because they'll learn about what you do and they'll go, "Oh, that's cool. I want to do it." But let them tell you they want to do it. The bigger play is who they know, right? So a good
Yeah.
networker knows thousands of people, right? So think about this. If you're in a networking group and let's just say there's 20 members and they all know 1,000 people, you're missing the opportunity on 200,000 people if you only try to sell the people in the room.
Right.
So learn to work with people, and that's why when we say power teams, let's actually identify that term real quick, because say what that is, because a lot of people maybe don't know what it is if they're new to
Hmm.
networking. A power team member is someone that's selling a product, sorry, selling to your client a different product, right?
Hmm.
So a great power team member for a merchant service person is a someone that sells Aflac insurance, right?
Hmm.
Because Aflac is a supplement insurance or selling to business owners. Even a legal shield person that's selling legal services, but they're not selling merchant services. So you are a great power team. And if you can
Yeah.
cultivate about 10 to 20 of those really good relationships, and just really take good care of those people, they'll feed you for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So,
Like yeah, and we talk about that in Latip all the time. Like, who are our power partners? Like, who are the people that are serving the same audience that I serve, but in different capacities? Maybe at a different
yes.
point in time, where my services would come in. Maybe they're either serving them before I come in or serving them after. So if
Mhm.
I build those relationships with people on either side of where my services begin and end, and we form like a really good relationship with each other, then, like you said, you're feeding each other for a lifetime.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of a great referral partner for you is somebody
Hmm.
that's into automation, because a
Hmm.
business probably doesn't need automation until they get to a certain point, and about that point is when they probably need advice on how to
Yeah.
scale, right? Because when people think of scalability nowadays, they think of like, how do I automate things? So that would be just a natural power team member for you.
Yeah, somebody who's good in like operations. If
Hmm.
it's not on the software side, because we can use AI, and I know AI is like the big buzzword of the day. Everybody's trying to shove AI into everything. It's
Yeah.
but yeah, somebody who can help out on that regard, or somebody who, a good power partner for me could be like a small business CPA, somebody who's working with somebody on their
Yes.
accounting and finances, right?
Yes.
And they can see where, okay, you need to start building in or bringing in more revenue, or you need to grow in some capacity. This is where I can come in and help them identify, like, here are some growth strategies for your business, but also I could say, if I come into a business, it's, hey, you have a lot of expenses and you don't have a lot of money to invest in certain other, you don't have a lot of money to invest in advertising. Let's talk to this CFO, this CPA, to find some places where we can save you some money. And then you can take that money and reinvest it into some aspect of your business.
Yes. Yes. Most
Yeah.
definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah. So so let's talk about elevator pitches, 30-second commercials.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, when you have that opportunity, I could see the knees shaking, the hands are twitching, the sweat is coming off the brow. What are your tips for developing a really solid 30-second commercial elevator pitch that's memorable and that doesn't cause people to kind of lock up and freeze?
Great. So I'm gonna. The first two things that came to mind was one, remove I from that elevator pitch. So
Mm.
when you're gonna start to formulate that, because at first you're gonna say, I'm a mortgage lender and I help people. If you hear the word I, eliminate it,
Okay.
because people don't care what you do. They care how it can be beneficial to them, right?
Yes.
So, and then the other thing is create a tagline that's memorable. So, for example, my tagline is I'm Phil the Connector, you're one connection away. That's it. That's probably intriguing enough to most people that are like, one connection away from what? Well, you're one connection away from whatever it is that you need in your business, right?
Yeah.
So that's how people want to meet with me. But so eliminate I, make a tagline that is memorable because people meet a lot of people. And then it should have something to do with how you're going to help another business or a person, or if you're in a B2C role, so you're a
Hmm.
mortgage lender, what is it that you do that's going to provide value without them giving you any money, right? So
Yeah.
like I don't know, we're coming off the cuff right here. Yeah, I'm a mortgage lender. I have a great one here in town. She's my mortgage lady. So she makes you
My
say
mortgage lady.
our
Nice.
mortgage lady, right? She says, I'm Sheila Moore, your my mortgage lady, and we help you understand how to buy a home. She's not selling you anything at all, right?
Yeah.
What she's saying is I'm educating you on when you're ready to buy a home. Now, I feel a little bit easier about talking to her than someone that says, "Yeah, I do mortgage lending. Let's see if we can get you pre-approved."
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah, because immediately I'm thinking, oh crap, I got to hand this guy bank documents. I don't even know when the last time I did my, where my tax documents are, where my banking statements are. That's going to be a whole process. Like, yeah.
My buddy Steve is fantastic at this. Steve Mass. He says, oh yeah, he says he's a mortgage lender, and he says
Yeah.
I make renters into homeowners and investors, and homeowners into investors. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
intriguing enough. You go, oh well, if I'm a renter, I don't want to rent, and I kind of
Right.
know that. We all know we don't want to rent. We want to own. And so, okay, that's intriguing. Oh, and if I own a home, I should think about investing, right? So he does a very good job there, and these are really good at connecting people too. So I would say
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
too
I
is
actually just
make yourself that center point. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I actually just saw him on the Lunch Bunch before, and then I was looking him up in Latip Wired and how many. I think he's sponsored over 140 people as members of Latip. I was like, holy crap! I've never seen like that many.
And guess who brought
Yeah,
me into the tip? Steve
it's Steve
Mass.
Mass. Yeah, I think you were 141 or 142.
I know. He does it such a great way because he goes, you're joining Legit. He just does, just get you in there. We'll figure out the details later. You're joining. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is what's
so
happening. We'll figure it out later. Yeah.
so this is so interesting. So watch this. So he does such a good job. Okay, you talked
Mhm.
about elevator pitch. So yes, take the eye
Yeah.
out, get a tagline, be helpful. So what you really
Be
want to
helpful.
do, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what your business is, you want to make yourself the center of the conversation. And what I mean by that is make yourself a connector. So you
Mhm.
need to build out your network to serve your clients. So and I know a buddy of mine owned a college hunks moving out here in Boise, and he made himself where when he would visit with a client, he had his
Mhm.
entire roster of his BNI chapter in his back pocket, literally, because he had all their
Okay.
cards in a book. What other services can I help you with? And so that now he
Okay.
became, instead of just the mover that's giving you a quote, I now can connect you with the guy that's going to clean out your house, the guy that's going to carpet clean, the guy that's going to all that stuff. So he built a network to make more sales.
Yeah.
So and then they're always going to call him, "Hey Scott, by the way, do you know somebody that does blank?" Now he's the center of all conversations. And that's how I built the connector.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So there's two things that I heard in that was one, he eliminated a lot of the sort of existential overhead, the guesswork that a homeowner would have to do to figure out what the next steps they're going to do for their life, right? So he took that burden off of their plate and said, "Hey, who else do you need? Right? I have somebody right here this, at least, they can not have to do the research to try to figure that out. They can at least call that person and start the process. But he just removed a lot of the effort and work that they would have to put in order to take that next step. And
Hmm.
then by doing that, now he's established himself as, oh, this is the guy I got to call whenever I have a question about who to hire, who to work with, especially if everyone that he recommends does stellar work, does a really great job.
Right. And he can feel confident because that's his networking meeting he's going to every week, right? That he can
Yeah,
stay on top of them, right? And be like,
yeah,
they're gonna do good
yeah,
by him. But
yeah.
let's speak real quick to, now that we're kind of on that subject, to the young guys out there. Okay, you just
Yeah.
started your business, you just got into business, kind of what we're here for, building that network. Um, Always capture 3 pieces or 4 pieces of information: first name, last name, email address, and cell phone number. And then
Hmm.
find, if you can get a physical address, great. Find a unique way to stay in contact with them, because you may change what you do over your career, but your list can continuously grow, your network, if you will.
Yeah.
And if you ever go work for a company, always keep a separate list. I wish I would have done this. So I'm looking back of all the people I'd never have to work again if I did this. If you do this right, if I was 18 and I was meeting people and keeping track of them, which is so easy nowadays with our technology, just
Hmm.
keep track of people and find a unique, fun way to stay in contact with them, even if it's say happy birthday to them when Messenger Facebook tells you that it's their birthday.
Yes.
So stay in contact with those people, because you don't know when your paths are going to cross again, when you might do business together or whatever. So just keep that. You can build that Rolodex right now. It doesn't even matter if you know what you're going to do.
Yeah, yeah, that is such a great point. I have updated my CRM to start including not just birthdays but also wedding anniversaries, because that's something that's really special. At some point, if my clients have kids, I'll start to like include their children's birthdays, like those special
Yep.
occasions or events. It's such a there's such a power in just acknowledging those special moments in a person's life that's not related to just their business, right? Like LinkedIn will send
Hmm.
you oh, wish this person a happy anniversary at their company, but if you'll really stand out if you start remembering those like really personal
Totally.
celebrations for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't need to know the exact date. If it's just know the month,
Hmm.
that's fine. Hey, I know it's your
Yeah.
anniversary is this month. Just want to send out a card and say
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Doesn't even matter if they do
Yeah.
business with you. That's going to go a long way, long way.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, I had someone. I just met with someone yesterday who has been on my list, and speaking to your thing about making sure that you always keep your CRM like or your database like up to date, even if you change what you do. Because I switched over from Bell Marketing Design Studio, which was the marketing agency that I did for about 10 years, to now the business consulting at Wisdom and Wayfinder, and I just had someone book time on my calendar who we had been going back and forth for quite a while when I still had the marketing agency, and just nothing ever came up from those contacts and those initial reach outs. To now, I'm about to send as soon as I get off of this, I'm going to send them a proposal for some work that we're going to do. But this was like years in the making, and if I had just not kept up with that or had written them off, that
Hmm.
opportunity would not have been there. Right, I probably wouldn't have
Yep.
responded as quickly as I did.
Yep.
So that
Totally
brings
true.
me to my next question is for you, right? With the number of connections and networking that you have done, obviously there's a quality aspect to it. There are those who are really involved, really, hungry, they're go getters. And then there are those who are probably on the other end of that spectrum. How do you, with the time that you have, figure out like where are you going to invest more of your energy in building those relationships? Because you can't maintain relationships, the same level of relationship with everybody at the same time. So
Correct.
how do you figure out where to make those adjustments in terms of who you're going to invest that time and energy into, who are you going to be maybe more relaxed about, and then who, after you've met them, are you're like, okay, this is not a connection that I want to hold on to.
Um, great. So now I'm learning so when I first started, I just did one-to-ones with everybody, round one, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Now, as I go back, I'm gonna, okay, let's do those second one-to-ones. Now I'm looking for opportunities like you and I to do more business together. Um, so think of it maybe as I read it in one book, an A, B, and C list, right?
Yeah.
So your A can probably only be 50 people, maybe, because you can't maintain strong relationships with too many people because it's all time, right?
Yeah.
And so if you find somebody though that you really connect with and it is working and you're just saying the same thing and you're finishing these other sentences, those happen. They happen about 10% of the time is what I kind of noticed. But when that happens, set another meeting, even if you decide to meet once a month, just
Hmm.
set another meeting at the time before you finish that meeting because you just found probably a power partner, you know.
Yeah.
And so just know your gut, and if that makes sense, do that.
Yeah.
Then you have your people that stay on your email list and all that stuff, and let them reach out to you when it's time. Make yourself available. But I guess that core, I don't know what the number is. I just know that
Hmm.
I started this after Steve told me. He's the one that taught me this. He would set a one-to-one every time we would get done meeting because we just hit it off, and
Yeah.
then um, and then he invited me to something else, and I joined a number of things, and he's joined a number of business that I'm doing, and so now we're doing a lot of business together, but it's all because he said, "Hey, we need to meet again." And
Hmm.
so maybe as you're starting to network out there, if you see those people, just let your gut tell you, "Oh, this is someone I need to stay in contact. We think the same. We whatever it is that's making you jive right then,
Yeah.
set that next appointment and continue that, and I don't know, again, depends on your schedule. It might be 10 people, but it might be this core of 10 that you're meeting with on a regular, even if it's every quarter, you're at least staying in front of them enough to build that relationship out. So,
Yeah.
but everybody else can stay on your list and let them come when they're ready. But those core, kind of like building your own little power team.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like a combination of one, just being very clear on who you are and like what your values are, and then finding people that align with that, and then just being
Hmm.
very intentional about creating the momentum for the relationship and not letting it die off, right? Because it's very
Yes.
easy after a meeting for, once the Zoom closes or once the meeting is adjourned, to kind of just fade back into life and all the busy things you have going on. So you do have to have that level of intentionality with the relationship.
Exactly, exactly. And you pick, like
Yeah.
once like you said, maybe they have to go through your course first, but once they
Hmm.
become very clear on who they are, what they're doing, and what they're providing, then their business partners will arise. They just happens. Like you'll find them.
Yeah.
But I had to become very clear on what this connector community, by the way, I forgot to say, it's only 2 months
Hmm.
old. And the reason is because I
Yeah.
didn't know for the last 6 years exactly what I was doing. I just knew I was
Right.
good. I was gifted at connecting with people, and that brand stayed the whole time. But then when I realized what it is I do now, now these business partners are starting to arise that are just perfect fits for what we're doing. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. The community might be 2 months old, but the work that went into its fruition or its creation is not. It is years in the
right,
making. Lots of
yeah,
lots of hours that you've spent there.
we just finally put together in a package. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of talked about, some of the technology that you're implementing with Connector Community. Um, for those who maybe aren't ready to join yet or just haven't, gotten there yet, what are some other ways you can see them utilizing existing networking channels opportunities right now in order to grow
Oh,
their
sure.
grow their networks?
Yeah, let's say everybody's on that shoestring budget, right? And they start out and they
Hmm.
just got to go. So first thing I'm going to tell you is do not spend money on marketing when you first
Mm,
start. I know that sounds very it's a lot of marketing companies want your money, right?
yep.
And they'll say, "Give us $1,000 and we're gonna bring you blah, blah, blah." So,
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that networking is the fastest way to grow your business.
Yes.
So, here's some tips on that. So, first off, don't hire a marketing company. That's phase 2 or 3 down the road when you're building a
Hmm.
brand. But at first, you don't even kinda know what you're doing and you don't know who you are, so don't hire a marketing company because you haven't figured out your brand yet. You
Yeah.
don't have your elevator pitch, you don't have your tagline, you don't have any of that stuff, right? But you learn that as you start networking. So you can go to most networking events 1 or 2 times as you visit. So visit a lot of places. And again, part of that calendar thing, if you're new to whatever it is you're doing, 50% of your calendar should be meeting with people. So sales related activities is meeting with
Hmm.
people or making the sales call, but also presenting your product in front of a group of people, right? And so go to all your networking events in the area. If you have a
Yep.
national service, go online, look up Latip. They're amazing. They'll allow you to visit a couple times. BNI does a great job, but there's all these groups you can go to, and there's some free groups too. But you don't have to pull the trigger right away on paying for something because there's all these
Yeah.
visitor things you can do. And I think you should find a group eventually that you jive with and join. But to initially, if you're on a shoestring budget, you can visit like mad crazy. And if you don't
Yeah.
know where to go, just go to your Google and type in networking near me. There's groups are going to come up, or go to your Facebook page and say, "Hey, I want to start networking. Where do I go?" Your friends are going to tell you.
Yeah.
So everybody's always looking for guests to come. So you don't need to spend any money on networking to begin with. Now, if you are in a business that you don't have time, let's say you're a tradesman. I was visiting with an electrician yesterday. He's going to
Yeah.
he's going to get busy very quickly. So I told him you should join our network because we're going to be continuously networking for you. So like we're only $39 a month. We're not that expensive, right? Um, but we'll be growing your network for you if you're going to quickly get busy. But if you're totally
Hmm.
on a shoestring budget, you can easily find networking events to go visit, and then just keep visiting and visiting and visiting until you have enough money to join one of them. So,
Yeah, yeah, I love that tip because you're right. Like, and I know it sounds strange coming from a guy who did marketing for 10 years, but I've seen a lot of companies, a lot of businesses waste thousands of dollars and thousands of hours trying to build a brand when they don't even know who they are yet. They don't know their audience. They don't know what problem they solve. They don't even know
mhm,
what facet of their business that they want to focus on, and they
mhm,
just waste all this time and money, and then they get frustrated because they then join networking groups and then they're not getting business from it. And it's like, well, yeah, because one, you don't even know who you are. So, and I can't refer you if I don't know who you are, and you can't
mhm,
teach me who you are and what it is that
mhm.
you do. So, yeah,
So
there's a
true.
whole process to it that I think a lot of people just neglect. And unfortunately, they get a lot of the messages from Facebook, from social media. They kind of just see what other people are doing, and they don't take the time to critically assess whether that's the right playbook or that's the right method for them. So I love what you said about, look, just go to these things. You can often go as a guest for free, like max that out until you
Mhm.
discover who it is that you truly are and that you want to be, and then you can start to build that business and then start to build that brand.
Yes, I agree. 100%, 100%. Don't let them pressure you into joining. I know it sounds like controversial to networking groups, but I really think
Hmm.
you can make enough money to join that networking group. They're usually not that expensive anyways,
Yeah.
before you join. But just, all the money happens in the one-to-ones. So
Yeah.
meetings, do all your one-to-ones. You're going to make enough money to join those groups. And then just let people know, be honest with them. Hey, I don't have the money to join yet, but
Hmm.
I'm looking to do it. And people will be respectful of that. So,
Yeah, and one of the things that I love, I've been a Latip member for the last 11, 12 years. It has been absolutely phenomenal for me in terms of the level of growth that I've had in my business, but also just the level of growth that I've had personally, and the relationships that I built over that time. But I remember even back in the day, there were members of Latip who were willing to sort of try me out, invest in me, so that I could
yep,
have money to invest into the group, right?
yep,
Because they saw the value in having me as a member, and I saw the value that was being there. I just wasn't at that place yet, and so I know that there are, Latip, just as the quality of members that we have, especially with the new leadership that we have now, really is pushing for the kind
mhm,
of people willing to make those kind of investments in people. And so, yeah, as long as you're honest about where you are financially and your desire or intention to join and be a part of it, I'm sure there's
mhm.
someone who would find a way to make that work.
Yes, yes. And then if we're gonna, I'll definitely plug Le Tip right now
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I've been in a lot of different type of networking groups, but this one has a very, and it must be the new leadership, like you were talking
Yeah.
about. But
Shout
they
out to
have
Summer
a
and
very
Paul. Yeah.
summer go get them. But they have a very tribal, this is the way I describe it, tribal feel where, and it's great because people will do
Mhm.
business with you because you're in their group. Like I've
Yeah.
heard people say, I fired my bookkeeper because there's a bookkeeper in my group. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
intense, but there's very, very focused on creating this culture of helping people in your group succeed.
Yeah.
And I'm just blown away by how powerful that is and been to me. I'm like, wow, blown away. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, that's just the power of networking, and a lot of I think if you're out there and you want to be successful in your business, but you're not networking, then you truly don't want to be successful in your business. That's
yep,
just the most direct way that I can say that. If you're not investing
totally.
that time into building those relationships, or if you only see people as, how can I get what's in your pockets versus how can I show up and deliver value to you,
Yep,
you're really not in it for the long haul.
yep, totally,
Yeah.
totally agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more. Let's, just as we kind of get close to wrapping up, share a little bit personally. I think you said before we went live, your family likes to take time to go camping. So
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah.
great
I'd
to
be happy to share.
connect.
I'd be happy to share.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's great to connect, but I think it's also important to disconnect at times as well. So just
of
share a little
course,
bit about
of
that
course.
for me.
Okay, sure, sure, sure. Yeah, so like I'll just real quick. I've been in sales for 39 years. I started selling candy bars door to door when I was 8 years old. Right, I was hooked.
Nice.
And world's finest chocolate. People know. Some people know what that is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I've done it all. I've done credit card processing. I've done car sales. I've done telemarketing. I sold MCI long distance service. So for all you new people out there that are younger,
Wow. Okay.
that
Yeah.
is, it's not more data on your phone. You used to have to pay to call another state. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but anyways,
You just
so I've
unlocked
done
a
all
core
this.
memory there.
Yeah, it's right. Some people are like, I understand. Some people are like, nope. um, but you name the type of sales, I've done it. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. Was in Wichita, Kansas for a number of years, where most of my kids are born. I have 5 kids. My youngest is
Wow.
20, so we're empty nesters. I've been married twice. My wife now, we've
Mhm.
been married about 5 years. We love to go, like you said, outdoors. We love that. So we got our RV and our truck and what
Nice.
have you. And we love to go places where there's no internet and just enjoy nature. Um, she's gotten into mushroom hunting. She's a big cook, like a self-made chef, if you will.
Nice.
So we're getting found like 10 or 15 pounds of mushrooms last weekend. Um, our goal for next, as the connector community grows, because I purposely didn't want to create a job for myself, so we
Mhm.
don't have any meetings, right? So we're going to get on the road next winter and go south, and we can still build out the connector community. By the time we hit 450 members, she'll actually be able to retire from her job. So anybody that ends up
Nice.
joining, you're helping us with that goal. but but she'll be able to actually retire and enjoy come on board here 100%. And she has a 20 years of admin experience, so she'll
Yeah.
really take this to the next level. But no, we're just excited for that, and then be able to travel the country and see this beautiful country. I did it once before when I left Wichita in late 2011. The way I got to Boise, Idaho, where I'm at right now, I forgot to mention that I'm in Boise, Idaho. We're all required to have beards here. But is we just traveled the country for a couple years. We didn't know where we wanted to live, and then we ended up in Boise. And so
Nice.
from Wichita, Kansas, so we took a long way around. But that was fun living on the road. So I want to do that again with my wife, to take it real slow and go see all the awesomeness this country has to offer. And but
Yeah.
in the meantime, build this awesome community because there's all these online things that we can do for networking. So
Yeah, but it maybe as you go along and you travel, you could like stop into some of those physical meetings and meet
Oh,
people in
exactly.
person.
That's why I want to make sure I'm members of all these groups because I can
Yeah,
write the whole thing off if I go to BNI or LaTip meeting or whatever, right? So, I
yeah, that's true.
mean,
That's
LaTip
true.
only.
Yeah, we don't mention the B word here. All right, awesome.
Uh,
Well, our conversation comes to the close. I always ask everyone that comes on as a guest to just share one piece of wisdom. Doesn't have to be related to business or networking or anything like that. Just one piece of wisdom that you would like to leave with the audience today.
your Okay, I would say your calendar it represents what your business growth is. So if your calendar is not full, if you looked at my calendar right now, there's not an empty section on it. You can't get on my calendar till sometime next week. So your calendar needs to be full. Yeah, just full, keep your calendar full. Whether it's working in your, like if you're doing deep work, put it on there. But if you're doing sales activity, whatever, just keep your calendar full
Yeah.
because you'll show up to your calendar. But if you have blank space, then you sit there going, "Oh, what do I do next?" So
Mm,
just fill up your calendar.
yeah. Keep that momentum going. Keep it filled with activity. Even if it's the time to intentionally disconnect, I think is also really
Mhm,
important. But
totally.
yeah, don't leave those gaps, those wasted spaces in your calendar. Yeah.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
It also allows people not to break into your flow. If you have time set
Yeah.
aside to work and someone says, "I can't get on your calendar, can you meet?" You're like, "Here, use my calendar link," and it just
Mhm.
makes it so that you don't, get interrupted. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. I always like to block out times, even when I just don't want to, just don't want to leave that space available so that they can't actually book time on there. So,
mhm.
all right, great. Well, Phil, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge and your wisdom and your experience from networking, just being in sales and all of that. And so, yeah, I just thank you for being here.
Awesome, fantastic, and we're gonna
Yeah.
put 2 links below. One is gonna be
Mhm.
your affiliate link with ours. So I appreciate you being a member of the connector community. And
Yeah, glad to be
then
there.
also I'll put my calendar link below. So if you want to meet with me ahead of time, I'm happy to spread any knowledge I can to help. And
Yes.
you don't have to buy anything. You can come on and I'll help you. So
Fantastic. I love that, Phil. Thank you so much. All right. Well, everyone, I will see you next week on our Wednesday Wisdom series. And until then, take care and enjoy yourselves.